Good afternoon, everybody. Today's Battle Rhythm, Empowering Military Families from Research to Real Impact, is being hosted by Jeanette Gillis. Jeanette is the director of the network. The network provides local veteran-serving organizations with a connection to national resources when a veteran's request cannot be met locally. To find out more, please visit americasborderpartnership.org/the network. That's it for me, Jeanette. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Allison, and welcome everyone to our November Battle Rhythm. If you can believe we're already in November. We would like to welcome all of our 4-Star Alliance members, affiliate communities, veteran service organizations, and guests. Thank you for being here and welcome. Today's topic is empowering military families from research to real impact. The session is going to be focused on how data collaboration and community programs come together to strengthen the well-being of military families. We're fortunate to be joined by organizations that are making a real difference every day. Our presenters are Dr. Jessica Luckhardt. She is a research analyst at on the Military Family Advisory Board. Michelle Tran, Director of Combat Injured Programs, Our Military Kids, and Kayla Corbitt, founder and CEO of Operation Child Care Project. We hope that today's discussion will help you discover new ways to connect, collaborate, and make a difference in your own community. Jessica, I'm going to turn this over to you to start us off. And while Jessica is sharing her PowerPoint, Allison will launch the first poll. Read the poll, take it, and then Allison will let us know what the results were.
Let me share the results real quick or see what we have so far. So it looks like, can you guys see, can you see the opening results? So which group do you primarily serve? We have a smattering of active duty service members, National Guard reservists, veterans, and then we have military children and family and others. And there should be some typed in the chat. So there you go, Jessica. Your head. Go ahead.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you again for having me here. As mentioned, I'm Jessica Luckhardt, and I'm with the Military Family Advisory Network. It's a mouthful, so we often just say MFAN for short. So I'm glad to share a bit about what we're doing to support military families. And as a part of the research team, I'm going to lean into sharing some of the findings from our 2023 Military Family Support Programming Survey, as well as what we did with that information. Our 2025 survey is currently in the field right now, so I'll say a little bit more about that later, but I also, just for a little bit of clarity, wanted to provide a little background about MFAN if you're unfamiliar. And we were founded back in 2013, and ultimately we've always been data-driven, and we've got this overarching goal to get the right information to the right people so that we can find the right solutions and shorten that timeline between identifying issues that military families are facing and finding the solution that works best for them. But we know that the issues that they face are complex, and no one entity or one solution is going to solve it all. So we look to share out our data. We put our data out in the community with our partners, our stakeholders, and people in a position who can move the needle and help essentially make change happen for military families. At MFAN, we also do some in-house programs. And again, as I walk through some of our key findings from the survey, from the 2023 survey today, hopefully that will give a little clarity to how our most recent programs have taken shape. So with that, I should add some context to the survey itself. It's a comprehensive survey. If you've seen it out in the wild, it's the Military Family Support Programming Survey, and our last iteration reached over 10,000 respondents. And our sample is wide and varied. We hear from military families, members and spouses who are currently serving, and those who've transitioned. So we get this sort of wide range of experiences that help inform where families are at, what they need, and in their voices, they're able to tell us what matters the most to them. So the survey itself is robust in design, in topics that we cover, and in our approach, doing this mixed methods approach with quantitative and qualitative. And those qualitative questions in particular really help humanize the data points because we know that our respondents are far more than numbers. One of the things that I did want to also highlight is just quickly the demographics of our respondents. They are largely aligned with the demographics for the currently serving force in terms of things like rank and branch and even race and ethnicity. But again, like I said, because we do have this as a family survey and we hear from currently serving and transition families, we do have kind of a balance there. And we also hear from more respondents who have children. About 80% of our respondents have children. So that adds some context to the stories that we share. So with that, let's take a look at some of what we learned in 2023. And the graphic here that's on the screen, our report is thorough. It's about 80 pages that I'm going to condense down into a handful of minutes or less here. But what you're seeing on the screen is the scores for the Family Wellbeing Scale. It's a validated scale that we started leveraging in 2021, and it's something that's really become a touch point in a lot of the conversations and connections that we make when we talk about what we've learned from our military families. So as you can see on the screen, the scores from the Family Wellbeing Scale divide into those categories of excellent, moderate, and poor. And there's a few things that this visual that I want to highlight from this visual. First of all, those scores themselves. Since we started using the scale in 2021, we have seen a decline in those scores. In fact, the number of respondents who shared poor family well-being rose by 90%, and that's what we found in 2023. We also saw that there were these statistically significant connections between those other domains and other topics that are at the bottom of the screen, so into healthcare and family relationships and so on. Essentially, what we found was that families who had poor family well-being, our respondents who shared that, they often faced more challenges in those first 5 areas with healthcare or their relationships or their financial stability. And they were also less likely to recommend military life. We also found that the reverse was true, that the families who had excellent family well-being were less likely to face challenges in those areas and more likely to recommend military life. Now, again, our report is available online, and I encourage you to dive in deep, but I want to just kind of zoom into a couple of areas so that you can get a sense of how we're using these findings and how we kind of move through the learnings. A few areas, again, that were some of those touch points with the family health scale are here on the screen. And these are additional validated scales that you're looking at the results from our full sample, the collective. And as we're looking to better understand these issues that military families are facing, we take a number of approaches, not only with expanded lines of questioning in each one of these areas and more, but also we're able to do deeper analysis where we kind of unpack subpopulations and can dig deeper in that way. So as just I'll kind of go one by one through these images on the screen just to give some examples and some clarity here. So with the first, looking at the housing burden scale, we use the HUD housing burden scale. And just for clarity, that indicates that people who are paying 30% or more of their monthly income on housing costs, things like rent, mortgage, and their utilities, 30% or more would be experiencing a housing burden. And those who are paying 50% or more are experiencing an extreme housing burden. So at a glance on the screen of our overall population, we've got almost 80% of our respondents who have housing burdens, some degree of housing burdens. Now that in itself is a pretty compelling finding, but it gets even more interesting when we start looking at those subpopulations. And among subpopulations who kind of popped out as we were examining. I can share that the enlisted family respondents were more likely to experience those extreme housing burdens than their officer counterparts. So again, as we kind of look at these findings, we unpack deeper and deeper as we go. Shifting into the financial well-being, again, just another example of how we kind of examine some of those subpopulations. You can see for the overall population, we've got almost split down the middle in terms of high and very high financial well-being or low and very low financial well-being. And one of the things that we found is that retiree family respondents were more likely to have high financial well-being. Again, just really reinforcing the nuance of experience and the context of their individual journeys. And that's really important as we think about finding the right response for these families and meeting them with the needs that they have. Now, the food security findings are on the far right, and you can see that about 1 in 5 of our respondents from 2023 were experiencing some degree of food insecurity. And this, again, as we look at different groups, different subpopulations, for active duty population, or for the active duty respondents, that number rises to 1 in 4. And the issue of food security is something that MFAN has been diving deep into for a number of years. And in fact, we've done some off-cycle research unpacking causal factors, looking to better understand that issue in particular. Back in 2021, we did a study that zoomed into food insecure families in Tidewater, Virginia, and in Texas, did interviews with over 300 people to try to, again, understand what they were going through that would shine a light on some of those factors that contribute to food insecurity. And so the learnings from that study, we actually tested quantitatively in this 2023 survey. And the findings were reinforced. So the personas that you can see on the screen here, again, echo what we learned in the causal factors research, but we saw that some folks were more likely to encounter food insecurity issues. Those families who joined in the last 10 years, families with children under 18, and families who conducted a recent PCS. And we know that that last bullet, that the military moves are such a common part of military life, that this is an area, a particular pain point in this journey that MFAN really decided to tune into. And of note, we found that more than half of our respondents in 2023 had conducted a recent PCS too. So it, again, just kind of affirmed a direction for a response to the issue. And so working with our partners, we did launch program back in 2023, the fall of 2023, we launched the PCS Pantry Restock Box, and that launched in Fort Hood, and the pilot was pretty successful there and has grown to three total sites at present. Fort Bliss and Camp Lejeune have been added, and we are hoping to grow to 10 sites within the next year. And this is meant to be like a household starter kit for families who are new to an area. Again, really highlighting what we learned about that pain point, the financial stress that comes along with the military moves, and that vulnerability for families in that moment. So they get this pantry restock box. Yes, it stocks their pantry, but yes, it also adds to their cleaning supplies. It's a warm welcome to the community, and it provides an opportunity for them to hopefully get plugged into some local resources. And for families who are identified as food insecure, they're also potentially eligible for these Instacart Fresh Funds. And so that's an additional, like a total of 3 months of additional grocery supplies, grocery funds, I should say. So this, again, is a growing program at MFAN. But given the fact that we know so much about food insecurity and how military families are impacted, we also recognize the immediate context of the government shutdown and how military families are impacted right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty. Some families are experiencing loss already. And so MFAN really felt compelled to act, and we launched a separate emergency grocery box program open to pretty much all members of the currently serving force. And this emergency grocery support It was something that the response was overwhelming, as you can see. In 72 hours, we heard from, we had 50,000 families sign up. And this is something we're a small nonprofit relatively, and we don't have millions of dollars in reserve, but we do have a lot of heart and we do have a very motivated team. And so our development team reached out to donors, and our research and programs team worked on building the infrastructure to start shipping out boxes to families who need some security and stability now. And at present, we are at about 6,500 boxes that have been shipped out to families. And in light of this overwhelming response, we did have to press the pause button on new registrations while we kind of triage and raise some more funds to continue serving military families in this time of need here. And we've triaged the Guard and Reserve families who have not received pay. So this is building and building back up. So the boxes are kind of shipping by the hour and people are working around the clock. And so if you can share out, if you have the ability to share out combatmilitaryhunger.org, if you're in a position to donate or know anyone who is, then we would greatly appreciate contribution in this direction. Again, kind of echoing the importance of this moment for military families. And the last piece that I did want to share here is that alongside all of these happenings, this is the time when we're fielding our 2025 iteration of the survey. We've renamed it. It's the Military Family 360. So easy to remember, MilFam 360. I'll drop that into the chat as well as I wrap up here. But if you or anyone you know is military connected, sharing out the survey link so that we can hear from folks, because we're able to put these research results into action in very tangible ways. So hopefully this can reach as many people as possible along the way. So I'll stop my share and I'll peek into the chat if anything is up there. Wonderful. Oh, thank you, Christy, for dropping that in. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, we have Michelle Tran, Director of Combat Injured Programs for our military kids. But Allison has put up poll number 2, so please answer that.
So
Yes.
here you go. Are you familiar with our military's kids program and grants? It actually 53 of the people who responded are not, and this is new information. So so 24% have heard but not ever referred yet. They're going hopefully after this. And then some, yes, you have a 24% that says they've referred families before. So hopefully we'll increase that number.
Yes, we hope so. And as I had told you all before, if you have any questions for Michelle, please put them in the chat when she finishes her presentation. Hopefully we'll have a few minutes that we can answer those. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jeanette. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Tran. I am the director of the Combat Injured Program at Our Military Kids, and I'm going to be talking to you today about our extracurricular grant program. So our mission is to fund activities for eligible military children, and who we serve are children of veterans or military in any branch of service who are receiving care for post 9/11 combat injuries or illnesses, and children of National Guard or Reserve service members who are currently deployed overseas or activated on a stateside mission. So RAND estimates that there are 5.5 million children in military caregiving households. And a lot of these children are taking on additional responsibilities like caregiving tasks, such as administering medicine, dressing their veteran parent, household management, even driving their parent back and forth for medical appointments or cooking dinners. A lot of these children are stepping into adult roles and absorbing stress and experiencing isolation as a result. And this, defers their needs. And as a result, these children are experiencing emotional and behavioral challenges as a result of taking on those extra duties. 70% of caregivers to military veterans age 60 and under are reporting difficulty in paying their bills. And so with a lot of veteran families, as you know, who are on fixed budget, extracurricular activities are the first thing to go in a family budget if they're experiencing some financial stressors or crisis. And with adult caregivers caring for their veteran partner or spouse, this impacts them being able to work outside of the household. So that is another financial stressor that veteran households are undertaking. And so with this federal shutdown, a lot of these families are experiencing even more so a financial crisis. So support improves outcomes. When children are engaged in positive activities like martial arts, like gymnastics, or swim lessons, it provides the adult caregivers with a lower household strain. Parents are relieved to find that their child is, in a positive, safe outlet like, swim lessons. And the RAND research confirms that supporting caregiver children reduces household strain. So it really improves the overall family well-being when these children are involved in these activities. So consistency and routine is really important for kids, as I'm sure all of you know. Activities and clubs provide structure and a sense of normalcy for these kids. It provides a source of connection with their peers and involvement in the community. So children are able to find mentors in their coaches and teachers in these activities. And it provides an emotional outlet for these kids and a safe space to reduce that anxiety and depression. They also provides recognition for these kids. It affirms their identity. They're able to have recognition outside of their caregiving homes. So that really is important for these kids in having some normalcy of a, normal childhood. So every year we actually survey our past grant recipients, and some of this information on the slide are key findings from that survey. So 92% of children experience positive impact on their behaviors and emotions as a result of receiving these extracurricular grant. 87% of the children made friends in their community. 93% of the service member veteran morale improved as a result of their children receiving these grants, and 83% of the civilian parent guardian morale improved. So that really speaks to the impact of these grants, not only for the child, but for the entire family overall. So what types of activities do our grants cover? We can cover things like sports, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, field hockey, any fine arts program, music lessons, dance classes, voice lessons, camps. So that includes overnight camps, day camps at the local YMCA, STEM programs like robotics classes. And these grants cover those monthly lesson fees for the child, instrument or equipment rental, registration fees, costumes or recital fees, which are common with dance classes, even uniform or testing fees, which are common with martial arts. And we actually can cover things like tutoring as well with an individual or with an organization like Sylvan Learning Center or Kumon. We also can cover SAT prep classes or driver's education for older children. So as I mentioned earlier, these teen caregivers who are driving parents back and forth from medical appointments, some of them have received their driver's license as a result of our extracurricular grant. So the eligibility criteria for our program, the child is 1 through 18 and not yet graduated from high school. The parent is receiving care for their post 9/11 combat related injury or illness and must have a disability rating of at least 30% or more in one of the categories of TBI, PTSD, amputation, spinal cord injury, burns, mental health, or any of the presumptive conditions outlined in the PACT Act. If the service member is active duty still, if they are in a WT Wounded Warrior Battalion or on medical household orders, they also would still be eligible for our grants. So the benefit is that each child is eligible for 5 $300 grants for basically one every 6 months, up to 5 grants, plus a one-time flexible grant. So the flexible grant can be used at any point in time, or even used at the same time as one of the 4 regular grants. So if the child has an expensive activity like a volleyball camp that's upcoming, and the registration is $1,000. So they could utilize one of their 4 regular grants plus the one-time flex grant to offset that cost. So they would be eligible. They would be receiving 2 $300 grants, $600 in total towards that volleyball camp. So what to expect once the applications have been submitted to us via our online form on our website. It takes about 10 business days to complete the application, and each child receives a top secret award packet that contains a congratulatory letter, award certificate, dog tags, and an OMK patch. Included in that grant packet is also the check made payable to the activity provider organization, so that the family can hand deliver that check directly to the organization to get their child registered. So I also did want to mention that with this grant, we actually can cover multiple activities at one organization. So let's say the child is participating in is going to be participating in the YMCA in their local area. The YMCA hosts basketball, soccer, swim lessons, gymnastics at that one location. So the family can sign up for all of those activities if they would like, and we would just make the check out to the local YMCA to cover all those activities for the family. So that gives it some flexibility if the child wants to do multiple activities. We also have our military, family, and veteran support professionals newsletter. So this newsletter has a number of resources, a family support resource page, program updates and information. So if we are expanding our eligibility, if somehow, you would be the first ones to know with this newsletter. We also do partner resources as well as regional opportunities for the families you serve. So if there is a special event that's upcoming that we would like to share, we would be sharing it within this newsletter. So feel free to scan the QR code here to sign up for that newsletter. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is here, as well as my colleagues, Christy Gilbert, who is our Senior Director of Operations. So if any of you would like any information regarding our program, we have digital resources on our website, but if you would also like any hard copy flyers or postcards to share with the families you serve, please feel to reach out and we can get those mailed out to you all.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I don't have any questions in the chat yet, but if anybody has a question, you could either put it in the chat or just come off of mute and ask Michelle the question directly. All right, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but please copy these links to this program. It's a really great program and a way to support the kids. So thank you for what you all are doing, Michelle. And please utilize this program. It sounds really wonderful. And I know those fees, I've got 3 kids myself, so those fees can add up really, really quickly for these families. All right, Allison has posted another poll for us. And let's go ahead and take that before we move into our third presenter.
So it looks like we've got the question was, are you familiar with Operation Child Care Project? And most of it, 76%, is new to me. So this is great. I'm glad we've been able to introduce most of our participants today to new programs, which that's what it's all about. So we have 18% heard of them, never referred, and then we have 6% that's already knows. So this is awesome. We'll be able to hopefully add more of your people that know about you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, Kayla, we're going to turn it over to you. Kayla, again, is from Operation Child Care Project. If you have questions for Kayla throughout the presentation, please put those in the chat box so that we can get those addressed. Kayla, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I am not shocked that so many people are not familiar with our organization. So I am the founder. My name is Kayla Corbitt. I'm a active duty military spouse and the founder and CEO of Operation Child Care Project. We are the only national nonprofit dedicated exclusively to childcare access for military and veteran families. Like I said, I'm not shocked that many people don't know about us. We've actually spent no money on marketing over the years. We've never had to. We predominantly offer case management services to military connected families. We help them navigate their full suite of childcare options. So that includes your DoD programs, your civilian programs, and other kinds of national and local resources, really digging into what unique needs do individual families need met. And we've developed systems around that. And that's really what I'm going to kind of talk through today is how did something like this come to be? And then what kind of an impact has that had in our local community? We've never needed to spend any money on marketing because our case management is almost always nearing capacity. I mean, we are grateful that we've expanded so much in the last few months. So we are actively opening new space. But it has historically kind of just been a word of mouth situation where families are referring other families in or individual care providers. So the first thing I want to kind of dig into here is our listening channels for families. So at OCC Project, we fully believe that families will tell you what they need. We just have to listen. And childcare is frequently the elephant in the room for a lot of programs. And we're seeing a lot of policy that talks about childcare year over year, and we don't really see movement in that area. One of the reasons that we as an organization believe that it's because the relevant stakeholders, the families themselves, are not being consulted in how these programs should look, how they should operate, and what the real barriers are. So some of the channels that we use for our organization is one, our case management. So that's what I mentioned earlier. It is free. It is open to anyone who is DoD connected. So when we say that, we mean active, reserves, retired, DoD civilians, veterans, and their family members. Our kind of overarching message here is that if you've served the mission, then we are here to serve you. Through our social media, we do a lot of listening. You know, I've heard some of my fellow speakers here mention Facebook groups, and Facebook groups, for better or worse, that is where our families are right now. And so being able to get into those Facebook groups and hear from them, what are the barriers? Where are they? What are the issues they're seeing? That's what helps us develop these meaningful programs. We also engage on social media because, again, we know that's where families are, and answering their questions in real time. We have a team of case managers, and they all dedicate a certain amount of time to getting into those groups and answering questions for families on how programs work, what the access looks like, what are the timelines looking like, so that they have the information they need to make informed decisions. And the last way that we do listening channels is through our community outreach. We very much believe that there should be no duplication of services, and especially in areas like this where the resources are so scarce. And so we partner with the subject matter experts. So we partner with childcare resource and referral organizations, state and local, city level leadership and leaders. We do brief military leaders as well. That is a little more nuanced and complex, but we believe that when we are doing the proper outreach, we are understanding issues in the 360 way, kind of similar to MFAN, who I'm very familiar with, and how they're trying to look at it from every single angle to see, you know, what are the barriers and how do we really improve this? Stories are one of the leading, I would like to say the most impactful in addition to data. Stories are, I think, what demonstrates that the one-off issues are not really that one-off at all. When we report things more linearly with qualitative or with quantitative data, when you get to select one or two options, you do miss a lot of the nuance. So these are some examples of family voices of what we try to amplify and what we're really digging into in our data to figure out what is the root cause of issues. You know, I've heard this story told a few times in different places where maybe someone is late to work every day. And when they're asked why they're late to work, they're like, well, there's no parking. There's no parking available outside. So I have to drive around forever until I find a parking spot. And then you find out, well, that person only lives a couple of blocks from work. So why are they even driving over there? Well, because they have to drive their child to childcare, and the closest place is over an hour away. So they have to drive all the way out. It's the only place that has a slot, and then drive all the way back. And by the time they get back, there's no more parking. And so they have to park really far away to walk into work. So we think that through these stories, we get to dig into a little more of that nuance area of what is the underlying root causes that families are facing and their barriers. And so these are some of the insights that we've garnered from our data collection and our case management and some of our other programs, which I'll touch on in a second, on what our military family experience is. So we know that there's a childcare shortage. We have tens of thousands of children needing care, and it just doesn't exist. It's not military families disproportionately need what we consider to be non-traditional care, which is really any care outside of the 7 to 5 like licensed regulated centers. Military families are more likely to have non-traditional schedules, so they need care early in the morning, in the evenings, overnight, hourly drop-in, weekends. So even if there were some spaces available, it doesn't mean that it fits the needs of the families that need to access that. We do have waitlisted children. We frequently see the DoD's Child Development Center waitlist as the indicator kind of the health of military childcare. But the reality is that is only the children who are still trying to access on-base care. That is very relevant because some families live far from the installation. Some families have special needs children. Some families have children who need care outside those hours, or they need transportation related care. The children on the wait list for military operated child development centers is not really indicative of the childcare need as much as it is indicative of the families who could still have their childcare need met by these DoD programs. Just kind of for a reference, right now there's a little over 9,000 on the DoD wait list nationally. We know that there are over 300,000 children that would qualify for that program, just active duty alone. So it is a very expansive set of children who need childcare support. We know that they have very long wait times, unpredictable timelines. There are, both on the civilian DoD side, the one disadvantage that military families have is that they don't have as long to wait on wait lists in their local civilian community. And they are very much competing with the local civilian community in getting access to those slots. And the last is that life impact piece. So we do a lot of data on life impact. We ask everyone coming into our case management, what impact does this childcare access have on your life outside of financial? We say that there are many costs to childcare, a lack of childcare access, and it's rarely just financial. We see significant stress and mental health impacts among the families who come into our case management. So these are some of the data collection points that we have within our two main programs, which is our case management and our Homefront Help program, which is currently live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and the Fort Walton Beach area of Florida. So case management, we are collecting family demographics. We are collecting the care need, and predominantly what we're collecting are the gaps. So where are people not getting care? We average around 5 to 2 new families per week, giving us this data. Homefront Help, what we recognized in that case management as we were doing it and kind of examining that data is that there's this gap of non-traditional care. This is where your friends, family, and neighbors typically step in to help support. Military families are less likely to have friends, family, and neighbors nearby to step in to support them. We saw them turning to Facebook, of course, for that help. It is a desired path. It is the clearest linear path to getting the most expansive network. It is rare that they were doing this because they really wanted to, because they thought, you know what, I'm going to find high quality care, someone really safe this way. It is because they felt like they didn't have any alternative choices. So rather than continuing to try to steer them away from it, we decided to lean in. So our case management and our Homefront Help team go into social media. When we see these families, we do encourage them to reach out to us for free case management. We do have micro grants available if they need a trusted caregiver and they can't afford that care. We do have programs that can help cover Delta if it's trusted caregiver associated. But we also support the caregivers. So those who are already stepping up to serve these families in a non-traditional capacity, we wanted to see what is it like if we support them in their support. So they get free, in these two areas, we hold cohorts quarterly. They get free training, level 2 FBI fingerprint background checks, first aid CPR certification, about 40 hours of training. Everything is free. And then they also get paid to do it. So we want them to see this as a win-win situation where they get this free training, they get paid to take it, and there are no strings attached. They are not obligated to offer care to anyone. They're not our employees. The idea is that we will have a larger pool of safer, trusted caregivers for all of these families to choose from in any given local area. On the Homefront Help side, the helpers they have the opportunity to complete a weekly survey that talks where they can answer what kind of care did you offer this week, if any? Was it short-term, ad hoc, infant care, special needs care, that kind of information. For example, in Florida, right now, there have been 43 helper graduates, and they have currently offered over 2,000 days of care. And it has not quite been a year yet since that pilot has been in that area. About 75% of those families are military, active duty military, with about 30% of them being full-time care. And what that really demonstrates to us is that these helpers, these caregivers, we call them helpers when they graduate, are not necessarily the predominant form of care, but rather they're supplementing a secondary form of care that these families have to take on. To kind of give you an idea of how much larger of a scope of an issue that this is, that we're really trying to get into the nitty-gritty details of. They do get stipends for submitting surveys, so they get $5 for every survey that they submit into us. We also offer free monthly connection opportunities, lunches, dinners for them to get together, learn more about the community programs, because at the end of the day, they're the ones doing this work. They're the ones going out, meeting families, either through we send it out through our case management or just on their own in the wild. That's what I call Facebook. It also allows us to capture family data on what is that care gap. Friend, family, neighbor care, trusted caregivers, as we call it, is the most common form of care offered in our nation and has been historically. But there is almost no data on who are they serving, what gaps are they filling, and how do we bring them back in. So with this data, like I said, we did create our one-on-one case management. We offer resource navigation services. There are many resources available to military veteran families. What we help them do is kind of cut through to figure out which ones make the most sense for them at that time. We triage with them. We also offer provider training. So this is for community childcare providers out in the community and helping them understand how can they start to accept military fee assistance. How can they help the military families that are in their current centers? We're really trying to do a dual lift off of their shoulders. We hold public Ask Me Anythings to dig into policies, specifically how do different policies impact military families. They have a lot happening around them. And so when new childcare policies come out, they don't always have the bandwidth to dig in and understand, well, how does this actually impact me? So we hold those about once a month. We actually have one coming up this weekend. The Homefront Help Training Program, as I said, it is live in Fort Walton Beach and in Colorado Springs. It is open to civilians, military affiliated, whoever wants to be a helper, they can be a helper. And then we also do our micro grant support. So in the last year, we've offered a little over $30,000 in micro grants. What this looks like is if someone can afford $5 an hour, but the trusted caregiver that they really feel safe with wants $20 an hour. If $15 an hour is the difference between them accessing safe care or not, they can apply for a micro grant for us to help cover that delta. And I'm going to shorten up the rest of this because I talked too long on the issues. I apologize. So in our case management system, we have reduced the military fee assistance approval time by about 82%. So on average, we see families waiting around 150 to 180 days for approval. Well, that's until they reach out to us, and we have a case closure rate of under 10 days once they're working with us. We offer no judgment in our navigation services. Since we are entirely privately funded, we are not limited to how we have to assist families. We don't have to only refer them to licensed providers, understanding that, especially if you have a child with special needs or non-traditional care hours, you're going to need something a little more unique and personalized. On the home front help side, we are constantly iterating. So we are asking these caregivers, you know, what makes you want to say yes to families? What would better support you in saying yes to families? And we develop our programs around that. I will skip our slides kind of on the other pieces, dig to the end, take any questions. I'm sure there's probably a lot since most of you haven't heard of us. We were created by military families for military families. The intention of this program is to meet families where they are, understand their very unique needs, that no two families have the same needs when it comes to childcare, and helping them lift some of that burden off their shoulders, navigate the programs, and get down to what really gets them focused back on their mission.
All right, Kayla, I know I'm speaking for our network here in America's Warrior Partnership, but child care is a huge issue for families. And I know that some of our families where parents are trying to go back to work, child care has been a barrier. So please, if you have some questions for Kayla, jump on and ask those. You can either put it in the chat or feel free to ask her directly.
Would it be okay if all of our people came back on and kind of I'd like to know if somebody doesn't have anything that comes up, what is the best way to refer people to you, veterans to you? And that would be for everybody, Michelle and Jessica and Kayla.
Yeah. So I dropped my email in the chat if there's a direct referral. So if there's a family you're working with directly and you really want to do that warm handoff, you are welcome to hand them off to me and I can get them triaged into our team. I'll also put a link to our website in here. The case management intake is our single intake for everybody. That would probably be the easiest if you're going to share it widely.
And for our program, I can definitely put my email into chat. If anyone would like to refer a family, I can definitely work with them in getting them applied for our grant program.
I'll also drop my email in the chat along with MFAN's homepage just to kind of direct the resource to.
Thank you. That makes a big difference. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So if you have questions and you have a veteran family that you want to refer, please reach out to them. Well, we would like to thank Jessica, Michelle, and Kayla again for their informative presentations and really for these wonderful services that you provide military families. We really appreciate that. And thank you for what all you're doing out there. Before we go, I'd like to give Mark Patton from the Military Child Education Coalition a few minutes to tell you about United Through Reading's upcoming Veterans Day virtual storytime event. So,
well, it is not going to be Mark because he is sick today. So I just told him I would take over and tell everybody. So United Through Reading's having a Veterans Day initiative, which is awesome. And they're having virtual story time with a service member. And you can see here, there's a classroom. I believe many of us who spoke today or are teachers have been teachers in the past. So we know how important it is that children have story time, and what a better way to celebrate Veterans Day than to have a veteran coming into your classroom and reading a story. So if you know anyone that's a teacher that would like to register for story time, they just go to classroom at unitedthroughreading.org. I think it's IRG. Boy, that looks funny. I just think it should be ORG, but I'll check that and put it in. I'll make sure it's correct in our after action notes. But anyway, it sounds like a really great opportunity. So please share that information to everybody you know and let them know about this initiative. I think it would make a great way to have a service member's child feel really good about their parent. So even more.
Does anybody have any questions about that program? And do you have any, maybe a link or something that people can go to if they're interested in that?
Yeah, I will put it in the chat. I don't
Okay.
have one quite up with me, but while you
All right. While we sign off?
yeah, I'll put it, I'll
Okay.
put it in the chat.
So while I'm signing off, everybody, Allison's going to put that in the chat. So thank you all for collaborating today and for talking with us. At America's Warrior Partnership, we partner with communities to improve veterans' quality of life and thereby reduce veterans' death by suicide. We believe communities are best equipped to improve veterans' quality of life. And our goal at America's Warrior Partnership, and our goal today, is to provide communities best practice, like yourselves, with best practices, support, information, and ways to provide quality to the veterans in your community. Our next Battle Rhythm will be on December 1st, and it is entitled Bridging the Gap, the Digital Divide and its Impact on Veterans in 2025 and 2026. We hope that you can attend. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.